everyone, it's Sharona from Pay Your Weight, and today I'm going to be reviewing Lovecraft Country, Episode 6, Meet Me at Daegu. Okay, I hope I said that right. Okay, all right. So, you guys, I apologize. I did not know that you guys were so set on my recaps by myself. So I have listened. Okay, I heard you. I have answered. I'm catching up. And so going forward, I'm going to actually just be on a strict schedule because these film festivals are killing me. So every Sunday at 10 p.m., the single recap video with myself will be available for you to view. And then as soon as you finish watching it at 10:30, you can skedaddle your way onto the live after show discussion. All right. Okay. So going into this week's episode, we finally have our answers in regards to who Gi is, the woman who we saw at the beginning of the series, the opening sequence of Lovecraft Country. And also too, we do have our answer as to why she told Atticus that he would die if he went back home, and also to his history of violence that he has learned from serving in the war. So the episode opens up with Gi actually sitting in a movie theater. She's watching a movie by the name of Meet Me in St. Louis. They're actually playing the Charlie song, which stars Julie Garland. And one of the things that I find very fascinating with this episode is the parallels between Gi and also too with Judy Garland, two people who were used by the adults who were supposed to really protect them. And really to help satisfy their own wants and desires, putting themselves before Gi, as we see with her relationship with her mother, and Judy Garland, from the treatment, they both went through sexual abuse and so forth and so forth. And I'll dive a little bit deeper into it as we go through the episode. We see that she's having a discussion with her mother, Uma, and basically she tells her that she needs to bring a man home in order to bring honor back to the family. So there's this burden placed on her that in order for her to take care of the entire household, she has to find a man. However, I was thinking like, oh, okay, but you just gotta find you a little boo. I was like, girl, you banging, you cute, like this is gonna be easy. So, but later in the episode, we realize what bring a man home really means. It takes a whole new meaning to bring a man home at this point. But we see that she's in school to be a nurse. And so she says that, once I finish nursing school, once I get a job, I can help take care of us and it won't matter. I don't need no man. I can do better by She didn't say all of that. Let me stop saying that. So we see that she has trouble making friends. She's kind of awkward. But I did see like her and the other woman in her class. I was like, I felt like she was making eyes at her, but maybe I was tripping. But later it was confirmed that I was right. I caught the little vibes. I caught the tension between the two. So we see that she played a joke on her. So basically she said like they had do the speeding thing and they actually call it meeting. And so they all end up at the speed dating event. I'm just gonna call it speed dating even though it's meeting. And, she says in class right before, like all the things that she said to the guys to get all these matches and to get all these dates. And then like clearly she was like lying to get the girls to say it, which I felt was very disrespectful to Gi for you to do all of that. You already know that Gi has a hard time making friends. She's already awkward and misunderstood. I just thought that was pretty disrespectful. And so we see that she finally ends up finding someone who had watched the Julie Garland movies. I was like, okay, they a match made in heaven. Like, all right, go ahead and hit that circle on my girl. And then he hit the X and I said, oh no, I was ready to come up through the screen. I was like, I got to put these paws on you, or I guess I gotta say I put these claws on you. I was very upset. And then he actually ended up going with her raggedy friend, which I thought she was raggedy at first, but then she redeemed herself throughout the episode. But we see that when I call her raggedy, her name is Young Ja Uni. And I hope that I said that right. And I know I probably didn't say that right, but I tried my best. Charge it to my mind, not to my heart, okay? Or don't charge it to my heart, charge it to my mind. So I thought it was really interesting because she actually does try to invite Gi out with her and the guy. And so basically, I think it's very interesting, like after she declines, and there's something very interesting that she says is mothers want what's best for them and not for their daughters, right? And so that's this correlation once again that we're seeing between Gi, who her mom is so gung-ho on her bringing a man home that she doesn't really understand that that's like the furthest thing from Gi's mind, right? And also too with Julie Garland, how all of these adults failed her, allowing her to be sexually harassed, like with the studio heads, and also to starve her. They had her started her drug addiction, right? In order to starve herself to be small enough to get these roles. And so we see that she ends up going to a bar. She does meet a guy. I was like, hey, cutie, how are you doing? And so everything is going good. She brought him home. I said, okay, she finna get her back broke in, get those walls dusted off. And then like they get it on and stuff. And he seems really appreciative of the beautiful body that's been bestowed upon him. But then all of a sudden these little tails start coming out. I said, hold up, wait a minute. I should have known. I should have known it was going to be anything fun to see. All these tails came out. I think the tail went up his bum bum. Then the tail went into his mouth, into his eyes. And I was just like, my God, what is happening right now? This man couldn't even actually he did get he got his moisturizing lotion off before all of this happened to him. So I guess at least he got like a good moisturizing lotion before, the tails got him. So we see his entire life and memories flash before his eyes. And it shows that like, was he married? Was he cheating on his wife? Like, did I miss that? Because she can see the memories of men, but she can never see the future. And then I clearly saw him with another woman at a birthday party with their kids. So I'm just saying, let me know in the comment section below if you peeped that, if you realized that like he was married and he was cheating on his wife. See what would have happened if you would have been faithful? You would have been alive still, sir. Okay. So I'm shook. The man would have been shook, but he's already dead at this point. He explodes and all this blood and stuff. I was just like, you guys, this is just way too much for me. I shouldn't have eaten like while I was watching this. I shouldn't have been eating because it was just too much for my spirit. But we see that her mom comes in just unfazed by what's going on. And she was like, we need 10 more. I said, Ma, 10 more? Do you see what just happened? Like, are you a part of this foolishness? Like, what? I just need a backstory, all right? So we see that she's actually in the movie and she's watching Easter Parade. Is another Julie Garden film. But however, we hear this rumble. There's a commotion outside, and then we see that the U.S. troops are coming in U.S. fashion, like, we're here to save you. Don't worry. We're here to protect you. Did we ask you to come to protect us? I was just really confused by that. All the flyers that they put out, I was just like, oh, this is just terrible propaganda, okay? So her mom is making her some soup. They're obviously tight on money, and so when she makes the comment, she was like, oh, there's anchovies in here. And she kind of paused and looked weird for a moment when she was watching it. And she was just eating it. And she was just like, what's the problem? And she was like, well, anchovies were your husband's favorite. And I was like, bruh, you killed your mama husband? Like, hold up. So is that your mama? I was just really confused as to what was happening throughout the course of this entire episode. But when she said that was your husband's favorite, I had to pause and just sit in my spirit for a moment because that was just too much for me. So obviously she killed her husband. We find out a little bit later as to what actually happened, but we do get more information on who she is. And so she's what you call a Kumiho, which is a 9-tailed fox that can shapeshift. And now I'm just having these Pokemon like revelations right now that y'all literally took 9 tails from Kumiho. And like, I just felt like this is almost plagiarism at a certain point in time. If you guys play Pokemon, you know exactly who I'm talking about when I say 9 tails that evolves Eevee to 9 tails, but that's just a whole nother story for a different day. But I just made that correlation as I was talking. So just let the nerd come out of me for just one moment. And so it's a Korean tale where the 9-tail is a shape-shifting fox, and essentially it takes the form of a beautiful woman, and you have to basically kill or capture over 100 souls until you can be human again. And so I'm assuming that from her mother saying you need to bring home 10 more men, that she only has 10 more lives that she needs to take in order for her to be restored to her human form. So we find out that Uma actually summons her. So Uma summoned her in order to kill her husband after she realized that her husband was raping or sexually abusing her daughter, right? And so her daughter is GI, but now the Kumiho has taken over GI at this point in time. So this is another correlation between the sexual abuse that GI was receiving, and her mother knew about it. Look, Raggedy just... And also too with Julie Garland, who, I forgot the man's name. He was one of the studio heads back during that time. He was actually the first Harvey Weinstein, who used to sexually harass her, amongst other things as well with Judy Garland. So we continue to see these parallels between this very troubled woman. And so we find out later in the episode that she goes back to work, and then basically the U.S. soldiers capture them, and they say that one of you guys is a spy for the communists, and we need to figure out who it is. And so they line them up, and then they just start shooting them. I was just like, wow, like, were you gonna give people a chance to answer? What was happening? So then his gun gets stuck, and he was like, soldier, give me a gun. And then we see Atticus pop up, and I was like, Atticus, not you. I know you not about to do that. And then he pulls the trigger and shoots the girl that's right next to G.I. I was just like, wow. So this is the violence that you were talking about and these terrible things that you have done. So he was about to shoot G.I. and then young Jai, she basically says it was me in order to protect her because, they had they clearly had a friendship, and it seemed like there was more, but they never had the chance to explore that because Atticus ends up killing her. And so G.I. basically says, I'm finna get revenge. Like, I'm finna ride out on him, but I'm gonna take my time. And then our opportunity comes when she actually sees that Atticus arrives to the hospital months later. He's wounded. He's going through a lot. And she's filled with all this rage, and she decides she's going to, kill him. She has to figure out how to do so. And so they he tells her to read the Count of Monte Cristo. And then I like that they have this conversation in the episode where she was like, they're kind of just like, why fight for a country that hates you, right? Because at this time, you had black soldiers, but you're fighting for America. But when you go back to America, they still don't care about you. They still look at you as if you're less than. It doesn't matter. And so that's why even when you think of the haunted house episode, when you see Atticus in his uniform and everything that he's done and that he has to come back home and be treated less than after he literally put his life on the line for the country, it's just hard for me to believe that somebody will be okay with doing that and not making it seem right, Montrose's feelings towards him serving in the war. But it makes sense, why do you want to fight for someone who doesn't fight for you, who doesn't see you as their equal in America? And so I like the contrast of his friend who is Asian and, excuse me, and basically he was like, I didn't sign up for this stuff willy-nilly like Atticus. I was drafted. You think I'm going to come up here and waste my time and try to fight with you guys? I don't think so. So we end up seeing that basically, they start hanging out and this and that. And then he ends up bringing her to the base, right? So he ends up bringing her to the base, and then he plays this really cute thing. I thought it was really disrespectful for the soldiers to tell his friend, his Asian friend, because I'm not sure where he was from necessarily, when they were like, don't sleep with make sure you're not sleeping with your cousin or something. I was just like, you're highly disrespectful. That was uncalled for. Then he had to lie and say that basically she was like a lady of the night. And she was like, I hope Atticus don't think that's who I am, because I'm not about that life. But when she comes in, he surprises her with the film that she was trying to see when the raggedy U.S. troops came into into her country. And essentially he reached out to Uncle George, who knew some friends who got him the movie she wanted to see, had a private movie theater. I was just had the best seats in the house. I was just like, girl, if you don't drop them panties for Atticus after all of that, not saying that she had to drop her panties because she deserves the world without having to give her body. But let me tell you, someone did all of that for me. These panties are dropping. But if my parents are watching today, I'm a virgin, okay? I would never do anything like that. But so, of course, she dropped them panties, okay? So they end up, they about to get it on and stuff. And I was like, okay, she finna kill him. But I was like, she can't kill him. It's only episode 6. So we see that he tells her that that he's a virgin. And I was like, oh, okay, Atticus. Because, after episode 3, we thought you was a virgin then, but we're going to let that slide. She ends up taking control. And I thought it was really nice how she takes control and she gets on top of him. And it seems that she really has feelings for him. And so I was waiting on the tails to come out, and I didn't see no tails, but I saw them abs. I saw those triceps and those biceps. I was just like, thank you, Lord, for another just blessing of Atticus. Atticus, you know what? They gave me a lot of blessings with Atticus' body this entire episode, because since him and G.I. was in so much love, you know, they was bumping and grinding, and then he showed us what that mouth do. And then I was thinking to myself for a moment, I said, but have you shown Letty what that mouth do? Have you moisturized Letty the way that you are moisturizing G.I.? Okay, because like equal opportunity. Okay, I was happy, like, thank you for letting people know that moisturizing is okay. But I was just like, I need Letty to get that same effort. I'm just saying. But thank you for the blessings of his body and him moisturizing on G.I. So we end up seeing that she ends up telling him because at this point the tales start coming out. I think because, you know, they have this conversation. He's talking about how he wants to stay, or should he stay? He can go home or he could stay. And I guess like they were falling in love with one another, and essentially I guess she couldn't control herself. The tales came out, and then he got shook. She saw these visions. She saw Letty. She saw him in bed with another woman. I still have questions about that. Who was the other woman in bed? Okay, Atticus, you just can't be giving your thing to everybody and anybody, okay? Your thing is precious, all right? So just make sure you use it for those that matter. Me. So we see that he freaks out. She sees him die. She sees Letty. She sees this ragged girl. She saw him with his mom, him reading, him getting beat by Montrose. Like, she saw all of his memories, but she actually saw to the future. She tried to tell him, don't go home. But he's like, stay the F away from me. I got to get the heck up out of here. I don't know what to tell you. But this is like after she ends up telling him the story about the Kumiho, but he wasn't really paying attention because like he didn't think that was real. But also too about her plan to kill him and this and that after the fact. And yeah, so he decides that, you know, he's going to leave. He's going to, you know, go back, and he has nothing else to say to her. So we see that her and her mom has this discussion, right? And so, I do want to note that she did tell Atticus that there's no book to escape, like, what he's done, you know, for like his sins, because she also saw in the vision of him torturing her friend as well. So she ends up talking to her mom, because her mom is upset because she's fallen in love with Atticus, and this is like not the plan. Okay, you're supposed to be killing people, not falling in love with anyone. And she basically says, you made my daughter a monster and a whore. And then she said, he only loves you because he doesn't know who you really are. And so I think it was very important to see that, you know, when we learned about how Uma allowed the sexual abuse of her daughter, right, in order to maintain her status. She got married. She saw this guy. He wanted to marry her, and she had a kid from a previous relationship. And so, you know, she was so gung-ho on getting her status and receiving her status that she was willing to sacrifice her daughter, knowing what was happening. Because, you know, when she sings a song, and then basically she's like, nah, homie, that's the song that he used to sing to me when he would come into, you know, he would basically rape G.I. So I think it's very interesting that we continue to see these broken relationships, right? We see the broken relationship between Atticus and Montrose. We see the broken relationship between Letty and her deceased mom. And now we see this broken relationship between G.I. and also too with Uma. And so it's interesting because it's almost like, you know, like, do people with trauma, do they kind of gravitate towards one another, right? As you see Letty and Atticus gravitate towards one another, and G.I. and Atticus gravitates towards one another. We continue to see these repeating cycles and how no one has these positive relationships of love, or to know what these relationships are supposed to look like. But we do see that when she realizes what's happened and Atticus left, her mother does hold her while she cries. And then at the end of the episode, she ends up taking her to the woman who helped Uma summon her. And she basically tells her that you will see countless deaths before your journey is done. And so it's weird because technically she only has 10 lives left, but it made it seem like there was going to be like much more death and destruction. I don't know if she was causing the death or whatnot. And she kind of asks her, like, is Atticus going to die? Like, what is going to happen? But we really don't get any answers. But I do like how they kind of show this love story that happens, right, amongst all of this violence, the violence that G.I. is inflicting upon these men, and then also to the violence that Atticus is inflicting upon people while serving in the war. So I'm really excited to see what's going to come next. I know this week's episode is actually going to be about Hippolyta, but I really want to see them come back full circle, because what if G.I. is pregnant, Letty is pregnant, and then the girl that he was banging in the memory was pregnant? Like, what if he got 3 babies going on? Like, just what if he got 3 babies and then there's all these different bloodlines to Titus and stuff? And what if Atticus dies and then they take the kids? I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just thinking out off the top of my head. But I really enjoyed this episode. I really like the backstory into Gia High. I love the correlations between Judy Garland, who was really taken advantage of at such a young age, which led to her alcohol and drug addiction, and to see how G.I. was taken advantage of by her mom. I love the correlation between the two. So those are pretty much my thoughts on episode 6, Meet Me at Daegu. As always, my name is Sharana from Pay or Wait, and if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure you hit that notification bell. And I love you guys 3000. And until I see you again, bye.